Welcome back, King's Kids. Today, our parables with Legos is going to be the parable of the Prodigal Son. Now, prodigal means wasteful or reckless. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. And we find this parable in Luke chapter 15, verses 11 through 32. So I'm not going to read the whole thing today, but we will read a few verses of it later on in our story. But let's find out what lesson we can learn from our Legos today. There was a man who had 2 sons. One day, the youngest son came to the father and said, "Father, give me my share of the estate. I don't want to wait until you die and I'm old. I want all the money and treasure that's coming to me now." "I don't know about this," said the father. "You're awfully young to have that much money." "I don't care. I want to be rich," the son said. "As you wish, but I'm not happy about it." So he gave his son the share of his fortune. So he loaded up his wagon full of gold and silver and probably some jewels and stuff that he could take along the way. And the son took off and he said, "Thanks, Dad. See you later." So he took off on his journey and he's like, "Hey, I need some more clothes and a fancy watch. I'm gonna eat like a king. I'm gonna go to the most fancy restaurants and oh, hey, and I need a boat too. I want everything. I want it all." So the son spent all of his money. "I'm out of money. I've wasted everything. And now I'm hungry. My boat has a hole in it. I sold my watch to fix my boat, but that wasn't enough. Maybe it wasn't so bad after all being at my dad's house. Maybe I didn't appreciate what I had when I was there. I think I will go home now. Maybe my dad will have me back as a servant. At least they have a warm place to sleep and food on the table. This is really embarrassing, but he is my dad." So as the son starts to head home, the father sees him coming from a long way off, and he has compassion on him. And the father's jumping up and down. He's so excited. It's like, "Look who's home! Look who's home!" And he runs to meet the son before the son can even get near the house. He threw his arms around him and hugged him and kissed him. And he's like, "Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son." But the father said, "You must put on the best robe, and I have food for you. Let's kill the fatted calf and celebrate." "Why?" said the son. "All I did was make a fool of myself." "I don't care," said the father. "This son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and now is found." So they went back to the house and started to celebrate. In Luke chapter 15, verses 21 through 24, it says, "The son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servants, 'Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it, and let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' So they began to celebrate." Now in life, we are all going to make mistakes. We're all going to mess up. But we have to remember that God is always willing to forgive us. But we have to be sorry. We have to not be afraid to come back to God and tell him that we're sorry and ask him to forgive us. Because if the prodigal son had not come back to the father and said that he was sorry and that he wanted to change his ways, he would still be out there starving to death. But because he came to his senses and realized, hey, I would be better off being a servant at my dad's house than I would to still be stuck out here with the pigs eating their food. Because even my dad's servants have good food to eat, have a place to sleep, and it's warm. So we have to do the same thing with Jesus. We have to realize that even though we make mistakes, we've got to come back to him and say we're sorry, or we're never going to get anything resolved. We have to change our ways. That means try really, really hard not to make that same mistake again. Because that's how you know you're truly sorry, is if you actually change your ways and try not to make those mistakes again. If you just say you're sorry, how do you know if you meant it? See, you guys know we've talked about how if your parents tell you quit fighting with your brother or sister and they say, go tell them you're sorry, and you go in there and you're like, sorry. Do you really mean it? Probably not. But if you go in there and you tell them, look, I'm really sorry, we shouldn't fight like this, I'm going to try harder not to mess with you and, do whatever it is you just did to them or they did to you, you can get things resolved that way because you're truly sorry, and you show that by your actions and not just your words. So we have to make sure that we come back to Jesus and we tell him that we are sorry and we ask for his forgiveness. How many of you, your parents, have forgiven you for something that you did that was really bad? How many have ever gotten in big trouble, but your parents forgave you after you said you were sorry and you promised you wouldn't do it again, and you talked to them? How many of your parents forgave you after you got done talking? Yeah, your parents are going to forgive you. Now, why, if our parents will forgive us, do we tend to think that God won't forgive us? We tend to have a different idea when it comes to God. We think that whatever it is that we've done is so bad that he's not going to forgive us. But that's not true. No matter what we've done, he will forgive us. But we have to come back to him and say that we're sorry and ask him to forgive us, and we have to change our ways. We can't go make those same mistakes again. We're going to talk a little bit on Wednesday night at 6 o'clock about the difference between your parents forgiving you and God forgiving you, and the difference between a heavenly father and an earthly father. So if you want to hear more about that, tune in Wednesday night at 6 o'clock, and I will catch you next time around.